Welcome to the Wednesday Bible study coming from Macedonia Baptist Church of Monroe, North Carolina. And today we're continuing our study of the book of Jude, and we're continuing to look at verse 11, and we'll be talking about the rebellion of Korah. Now the verse 11 goes this way: "Woe to them, for they have gone in the way of Cain, having run greedily in the error of Balaam for profit, and perished in the rebellion of Korah." And as I said, today we're looking at the invasion of Korah. Our study of the book of Jude has taken us to verse 11, and we're continuing to learn about God's charges against the listeners. The way of Cain simply means anyone who tries to approach God on his own merits. They fail to see Jesus is the only way to God. And then the error of Balaam, anyone who is driven by covetous behavior. So if you saw the last two lessons, those two were discussed. And the rebellion of Korah is today. Korah attempted to lead an insurrection against Moses. So I'm just going to summarize Numbers chapter 16, because that's where the story of Korah is found. Korah was the oldest son of Ishar, who was the son of Kohath of the tribe of Levi. Korah then was of the same tribe as Moses and Aaron. Korah led a rebellion against Moses and Aaron, accusing them of exalting themselves above the congregation of the Lord. Korah was not alone in the charge. He gathered 250 other men to challenge Moses' authority as well. The rebellious one said to Moses, "You have gone too far. The whole community is holy, every one of them, and the Lord is with them. Why then do you set yourselves above the Lord's assembly?" Obviously, Korah thought he could do a better job of leading the people than Moses. But by leading this revolt against God's divinely appointed leaders, Korah was actually revolting against God. Moses proposed a test to prove the source of his authority. Korah and his followers did not pass the test, and God opened up the earth and swallowed the rebels, their families, and all their possessions. Furthermore, fire came out from the Lord and consumed the other 250 men who were party to Korah's rebellion. The rest of the Israelites were terrified and fled. The following day, instead of being convinced that God had vindicated Moses and Aaron, the congregation began complaining that they had killed the Lord's people. For this act of rebellion, God threatened to destroy the whole congregation and sent a plague among them. However, Moses and Aaron interceded for the rebels and averted a complete catastrophe. In the end, 14,700 Israelites had died. Some 1,500 years later, Jude records a strong warning about such men who come into the church as false teachers, claiming to themselves the authority of God and His Word. Woe to them, for they walked in the way of Cain and abandoned themselves for the sake of gain to Balaam's error and perished in Korah's rebellion. The characteristics of false teachers within the church include pride, selfishness, jealousy, greed, lust for power, and disregard for the will of God. Just like Korah, today's false teachers disregard God's plan and are insubordinate to God's appointed authorities. Their end will be the same as Korah's. Thus the warning, woe to them. So this is the tie-in of these three statements in Jude verse 11. And as we continue to look at the book of Jude, we're going to see other Old Testament references that things that had been done in the past, and the people were supposed to have learned lessons from those things. But we'll find that the writer Jude will be addressing some of these because they show up among these Christians. To lead his people Israel, God had selected men of his own choosing. God had no interest in holding a popularity contest, collecting resumes, or letting someone appoint himself to the position of prophet, priest, or leader. Korah's problem was not that he was unqualified, humanly speaking, for the position, but that he was arrogant, stiff-necked, and self-promoting. Korah, attempting to install himself as the leader, ironically claims that Moses set himself above the Lord's assembly. It's a classic case of the guilty person accusing someone else of his own misdeed. But God did not call Korah, he called Moses. God calls whom he chooses and equips them for service. God's true leaders, the elders and pastors of the church, who shepherd the flock with humility and care, have an accurate understanding of the scriptures. And I hope that you maybe are taking some notes of these scripture references. Such men submit themselves in humble adoration of Christ and his lordship. They recognize the truth of Jesus' proclamation, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Most importantly, the true leaders of the church are called by God to their office. False teachers, on the other hand, are wolves in sheep's clothing who choose the fate of Korah over the life of Christ. So that's the story of Korah and those who followed him in rebellion. And of course, Sunday coming up, this coming Sunday is New Year's Day. So we want to be sure to be in our place on Sunday morning. And what better place can you find yourself on the first day of the new year but in church? So we hope that you will join us at Macedonia, or if you have another church, then to be there to worship the Lord.